Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 337. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today we got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
This week on the show we'll be talking about It Chapter 2. We'll also be talking about someone we're watching on the watch list, going over this week's new releases in theaters, VOD, and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to please consider reviewing us on iTunes if you get a chance. That would be amazing. Just a couple bits of housekeeping. No Ryan watches a movie this week. Kevin, you were at the beach. How was your beach vacation?
I was beaching it up. It's fantastic.
Chilling, maxing, and relaxing?
Oh my God, you have no idea.
I need a vacation.
So much free time. It's great. Reading books, eating out, drinking cocktails, laying on the beach.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Man. Yeah.
Next week, we are not sure if there's going to be a show or not. I will be traveling next week, and I'm going to try to fit in time to...
Well, hey, there's your vacation.
Not really,
You're Pennsylvania. Yeah, buddy.
It's like... I'll be in Pennsylvania for a few days, and it's... I don't know. I don't consider that a vacation.
York Fair? York Fair?
Yeah, I am going to the York Fair. I'm pretty excited about that.
Hell yeah.
With that, I think we can jump into our review. We're talking about It Chapter 2. I have a synopsis here. 27 years after their first encounter with the terrifying Pennywise, the Losers Club have grown up and moved away until a devastating phone call brings them back. This is directed by Andy Muschietti. Stars Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, Bill Hader, Isaiah Mustafa, Jay Ryan, James Ransom, Bill Skarsgård, reprising his role as Pennywise, and then all the kids from the first one are in this as well.
All them kids.
All of them kids.
Every single one of them.
Now, Kevin, I remember last week when we talked about this, and you were bummed. You were like, I want more time with the kids. You didn't like that this one was 27 years later and they were grown-ups. Although you accepted it, you knew that that's what they did in the book, that's what they did in the original adaptation. So you knew that was coming.
Yeah.
But you would prefer to be spending more time with these kids. And I think most people would probably agree with you. Now that you've seen the movie, there's a lot of stuff in this movie featuring the kids.
Yeah.
Do you stand by your original statement of wanting more of the kids?
Yes. Because what I get with the kids here just feels like a rehash. Mm-hmm. Like I don't 100% remember it, the original, the chapter 1, whatever. But it felt like a lot of scenes that I've already seen. Like, it felt like they were the scenes in the first one, and we were just rehashing them. And I'm also not 100% sure what they did entirely with the kids, because there seemed to be a couple of scenes where, were they using CGI on the kids' faces? Because they did not look real.
Yeah, they definitely were. Now, I haven't looked this up, so I don't know what the story is behind that. And I'm glad that you brought that up because I was going to. They did something. I don't know if maybe the kids grew up and their voices changed and they were doing something with the voices, but they definitely did something, especially with Eddie. I really noticed it with Eddie.
Yes, Eddie and Ben.
Yeah.
Because there was times where Ben's whole head was glowing orange, and it's just I don't think that's right. That's not healthy.
I don't know what they did. They did something, but there was definitely some CG work happening with these kids. It was really jarring.
Yes, which points to what it kind of took me out. I was excited to have the kids back, and then I'm like, what the facsimiles? This is weird. This is very bizarre. It looks so unnatural. I wanted to spend more time with the kids, but it was kind of like the universe saying, hey, you asked for it, asshole.
Yeah, that's why that was my first question. As soon as I came out of the movie, I'm like, oh man, Kevin really wanted. It seems like a lot of people wanted more time with these kids, and it seems like the filmmakers knew that people wanted more time with these kids, so they found ways to include the kids as much as the adult versions in this. There's so much of it is there's so many flashbacks. And then also one thing that they did was during the individual scare scenes, when each character has their own little frightening moment, their solo moment, they revert back to children. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't see the adult version being scared. You see the child version being scared. And at first I was like, the first time it happened, I was like, is this a flashback? And I was like, if so, it doesn't make sense, because they were talking about, because it happened, if I'm remembering the timeline correctly, it happened right after they said there was more that happened after the
Mm-hmm.
event.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so I was thinking that we were seeing more of what happened after they defeated Pennywise the first time. And I'm like, well, if they defeated Pennywise, why are they still getting scared? Why are these things still happening to them? And then later I realized, like, oh no, I think that's the adult version that's seeing these things, and they just like swap them out for the kid because they're being brought back to that time in their life or whatever. And I just didn't think that really worked. I think it would have been better to just have them be the adult version.
No, and that's the other problem with the splitting timeline here. Like in in this movie, like none of it worked for me. It felt weird, and it was just a mess. It was just a downright mess.
I 100% agree with you on this. And I don't know why, like looking at the original movie, the TV movie, I think that they handled it a lot better. Like there were two very distinct halves to the story, and the second half, when they're adults 27 years later, they just focus on the adults and their situation. And yes, I think that there's at least one moment in the TV version. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I think that there was like at least one point when they show them as kids. Maybe it was like that scene at the end when they look into the glass, you know, that really kind of cheesy moment there at the end.
Oh yeah.
But for the most part, they stuck with the adult versions. And I think that they would have, I think by shoehorning in the children in this one, it just caused things to become even messier. Like the jumping back and forth, and like all of a sudden they're reverting to their childhood forms and all of this stuff. And I just think that it ended up bloating the runtime to a ridiculous degree. I mean, we're talking 2 hours and 49 minutes here, according to IMDb. And it just, they could have streamlined the whole thing. Like, I'm sorry. Like like I said, I wanted more of the kids too, but they didn't do it quite right here. I mean,
No.
I would say,
No.
I think if they stripped out the kids, it probably would have worked better.
Well, there's a lot that they could have stripped out. But going back to like the splitting up the timeline thing, not only is it a mess, but it just messes up the whole rhythm of the movie. Like this movie never seems, and you're talking, like you said, 2 hours, 49 minutes. This movie never seems to get into a rhythm. It's just constantly stopping and starting and stopping and starting. Like it felt like there's like 40 editors to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a clip show.
Yeah, it's really disappointing because I think that all the casting was great for the adults. I think all the performances were great. I liked a lot of the individual scenes, like when they first all met up at the Chinese restaurant. There were a lot of moments in this that I quite enjoyed, but it, when combining it with everything else as like a whole package, I think that it just, like you said, and like a lot of people are saying on Twitter and stuff, it's a very messy film.
Yeah. And I mean, you have like a large part of the opening to this film just feels completely off. I mean, you have the very violent gay bashing, which I don't understand the point of that existing. And then like everything with Jessica Chastain and her husband just felt kind of forced. And just the way that it played out.
Yeah.
It felt like a parody.
It did. Like the opening sequence with Xavier Dolan, by the way.
Yeah.
That was a surprise when he popped up. that scene, it felt unnecessary. Like, I understand that they needed something to indicate that Pennywise was back, and something that would indicate to Mike that Pennywise is back.
Yeah.
But
at the same time, and again, a lot of this comes down to me never having read the book. So, like, a lot of these things are perhaps a surprise to me. I don't know how well they stuck to the book. But in that, I'm kind of thinking of, like, Pennywise as a character. Is like, did he go after adults? I don't really remember that.
Yeah, I don't
being a thing in the first movie.
I mean, I know that he goes after them as adults, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but that's just mostly because they come back to fight him.
Yeah,
so he really has no choice.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I knew, I mean, even according to the lore of the new movie, he only goes after children.
Yeah.
Now, and I was thinking about this during that scene, specifically like when he was in the water, and I'm thinking, like, didn't he just go after kids? And then I thought, oh, maybe it's the fear. Maybe it was the fear that brought him to Xavier Dolan, and that's why he got caught. But
which is insane to think that no one in Derry, Maine, that's an adult has fear. Unbelievable.
It's just
even with kids disappearing all the time, they're just like, whatever.
Yeah,
it is what it is. Go about our day.
It's a whole town of tough guys. Bunch of tough guys in that town.
It's just a bunch of fucking stoic people, individuals, not giving two shits.
And regarding Jessica Chastain's character and the thing with her husband at the beginning, I don't know if that was in the book or the original movie. I can't recall. I don't remember seeing that in the original movie, but there were a lot of things because I remember when Chapter 1 came out, I rewatched the original movie after I saw the Chapter 1, and there was like a lot of stuff in that I was like, oh wow, that was in the original movie, and I just totally forgot.
Even if it was, if it's in the book too, just the way that it's done here just feels very, amateurish.
Yeah, like, a lot of the stuff was really heavy-handed.
A good portion of the end is just super fucking corny.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
Big time.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
And you think I hate voiceover? Let me tell you, I hate voiceover when it comes from like 14 different characters
it
alternating.
Yeah, it got really, really cheesy at the end, and then I felt my eyes rolling at times. I mean, I'm sure it's all just subjective, and a lot of the moments maybe weren't as cheesy for some people. Like there were a few moments towards the beginning, like after they all got back together 27 years later, and you saw that like camaraderie between them that felt very real, and that felt really good. Just going back to the Chinese scene, and there were a couple other scenes when they were all together, like when they first went into the house and stuff, where I'm just like, yeah, these people feel like old friends getting back together, and all that to me felt really good.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, for every one of those scenes, there was another scene where it was just like it didn't quite work, and it felt really ham-fisted. And I mean, I want to just clarify that the scene with Jessica Chastain and her husband, I didn't think that it was something that shouldn't have been in the movie or anything like that. I mean, I understand what they were going for with that scene, and I just felt like the execution of it was not very well done.
No, the execution of it is terrible because it's just the way in which I don't know who plays her husband, but like his side of the dialogue, oh man, it felt like a soap opera, but bad, even worse. It felt like such an exaggeration. I
think that you could, and maybe they did this in the original film, is allude to that happening to her in the future, rather than showing it.
Yeah. Which let's get to something else here too, because we talked runtime a couple times. We mentioned it. 2 hours. 49 minutes, like you said, according to IMDb. And how much Pennywise is there?
Very, very few. Very
And
few
how
moments.
and how often is Pennywise uh, substituted for some just really lackluster monster ideas?
Yeah, this was one of the biggest disappointments for me was the scare moments. They were not nearly as effective this time around. I thought that it worked so much better. I rewatched chapter 1 last week in just to refresh myself, and the horror moments were just so much more effective in the first one. This one, it was like there's a slight creepy buildup, then you have the loud, jump scare noise, and then CG monster like comes towards the screen.
And let's be honest, like for me, I'm speaking for myself here, but those CGI monsters were kind of goofy. They were cartoonish.
Yeah, they looked like cartoons. They were not well done. It was not the level of realism on them was like not. It was just non-existent. They looked really bad. I mean, they would have looked fine if this was a video game or something, but in this movie, I think it would have been creepier, like for the leper scene, for instance. Now, this is a character that's in the first one as well, but for some reason, I think that the way that they handled that scene in the first one compared to this one, it just worked better. For the leper scene, you could have easily got somebody and dressed him up in makeup, and made him creepy. If you wanted to do some like CG accents to like make his nose look like it's gone in real life or something, then you could accent the costume with CG, to accentuate certain things, but it just doesn't, that didn't work. And one of the biggest bummers was the scene involving Jessica Chastain and the old lady. That was a scene, I believe, that was released online. You could see the clip of that, and seeing the full sequence, I found that to be one of the creepier scenes in the movie. But the end of it is ruined after she turns into the monster, and you're just like, come on. Like I think I jumped maybe one time during this movie at a jump scare, but nothing really made me feel uneasy.
Yeah.
I think the creepiest moment, the scariest moment for me was the scene with Pennywise under the bleachers. Like that scene I thought was the best. That was the most atmospheric, the way that they used the lighting. The rest of them just did not stick the landing.
And that was the one thing that made it feel like Pennywise.
Yeah.
That's where he was like recognizable, like, oh yeah, that is definitely Pennywise.
To be clear, most of the scenes with Pennywise I thought were really well done. The other one being the scene when he's like wiping the makeup. I guess it's like like human flesh, skin color, and he's like wiping that off his face. Sort of like that scene in Batman, the '89 Batman, when Jack Nicholson puts on the flesh colored makeup and he's wiping it off. That scene I thought was really effective as well. And then you have that, and then you have these other scenes that are just like,
Yeah. I mean, there's just a whole lot that just doesn't work. Everything with Bowers, that whole like subplot thing, just I don't know why. Like why is that there? I don't care.
Yeah, I don't think that was in the original movie. Now I don't know if that was in the book or not. The whole Bowers thing, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was pointless. That was a waste of time. It was a distraction.
Right. Like I think that it did lead to one of my favorite scenes when he attacked James Ransone as Eddie, and the scene when he knifes him in the face and all of that, and where that leads. But again, like you said, why was it even necessary? You know, like we thought that character was done for, in the first one. So it's like, why would you need to bring him back? It's not like you needed to explain what happened to him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they could have left that person dead. Like, and not only that, but they bring back other people who had died in the first one, and you're just like, all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just it's a whole fight. Like really, with sitting here and talking about, because when I came out of the movie, I was, I was underwhelmed. I didn't necessarily enjoy myself too much, but I wasn't like aggressively against it per se until now when I'm talking about it with you, because I'm literally trying to come up with things that I enjoyed about this movie. And I think there's one thing, and that is when Pennywise does that where his head splits open with Bill Hader,
Yeah.
like when they're down in the thing, when his head splits open and you see all the teeth up through and then you see the lights behind his head and everything, like that looked great.
Yeah.
And that was impressive. But outside of that, and then everything with the folklore of them having to do this ritual, and it's just, I didn't care. I just didn't care.
Yeah, I thought the whole ritual thing was, again, it was like it didn't even go anywhere. Like it was just, if so much of it felt extraneous and just pointless. Now there were a number of things I did like. I mentioned the casting, but specifically, I really enjoyed the Bill Hader, James Ransone, like that dynamic that they had.
Yes.
I thought that
That was good.
those two were the strongest characters, and I thought Bill Hader really killed it. I mean, I would just, anytime he was on screen, I was enjoying what I was watching.
Yes, I would agree with you. Him and James Ransone, when those two were on the screen, I was happy.
So it was really, for me, the two of them are what really did a lot to save this movie. I came out of it. I have a lot of complaints with it, obviously, but I came out of it feeling like, yes, I'm underwhelmed, but still, I was like, it was fine. There was enough here for me to enjoy it, at least on some level.
Yeah.
But overall, like, can I see myself watching this again? Probably not for a really long time.
When they remake it in 15 years.
Yeah.
The old reboot.
Yeah, maybe. Any other things to add about It Chapter 2?
No.
All right. There you have it. Let's give this a score. I'm sitting at like a 5.5 or 6 on this one. Somewhere around there.
Ooh. Okay. I'm much lower. I'm at like a 3.
Oof.
2.5.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Ugh. This fucking thing.
That is It Chapter 2. It's in theaters right now. Let's move on. Talk about someone watching on the watch list here. I got not a whole lot this week.
Okay.
I've just been playing a lot of video games and stuff.
Nice.
I posted 3 video reviews for games in the last week.
Whatever.
So yeah. So check those out. You can visit our YouTube channel, Film Pulse Vids, or just go to the site and you'll see them listed under reviews. I did Man of Medan. I did Blair Witch, which I mentioned last week, I believe. And I did Telling Lies, which is it's from the creator of Her Story, which was a really interesting sort of interactive experience. This game is sort of the same concept, but it like expands upon it a whole lot. There's a lot of good talent in this. The dude, I can't remember his name. It's like something. It's like dude from Upgrade, Logan Marshall Green. I can't. It's Logan Marshall something. I think.
The guy that looks like Tom Hardy.
Yeah. Yep. He's in it. A bunch of other solid actors are in it. So check those out. I did see Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Oh yeah.
Which came out earlier this year. What a disappointment this was. Wow. I heard kind of not great things about it, but I'm like, it's a Godzilla movie. You know, all I'm going in for is giant monster fights, you know? And I was excited. I was excited by the fact that there were so many monsters in this. Like, they weren't like, oh, we're going to add one. You know, we're gonna add Mothra or something. No, they added like tons of them, tons of monsters in this.
Yes.
And
The
so
wall-to-wall monsters.
yeah, so I was kind of excited about it, but man, what a lackluster experience this was. The fights are fine. They're all at nighttime. You can't see a goddamn thing.
Love it.
That drives me insane. Why just have one, just do a few of them in the day? And worse yet, it's raining for most of the fights. So it's even harder to see what the hell's going on. Like I agree, like have some of them at nighttime, you know, so that you can show off that awesome charge up thing that Godzilla likes to do where it starts to glow, you know, and the lights go up the tail and up the back. Show that, but have some of these in the daytime for God's sake. It's not a very good looking movie. I mean, one of the things that I enjoyed about the last Godzilla movie was like I thought it was actually quite good looking cinematography wise. This one is just really bland, not very interesting at all visually. The characters are lame. There's nothing going on in the story. It feels so cookie cutter, and I just didn't enjoy myself at all during this. So I can't recommend Godzilla King of the Monsters. I really hope that they fix what they did with this movie. I mean, it's really the beginning of something a lot bigger. So I'm hoping that the next one, which I believe is going to be the Godzilla versus King Kong movie, I hope that they fix that.
Yeah, probably not.
I think Adam Wingard.
That's my guess.
I think Adam Wingard is doing the next one.
That's my gut feeling. Is they gonna fuck it up more?
I don't know. I think they could rebound. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. This one's not very good.
I saw something that was good, which is, I guess, I want to say consider it a classic. I would imagine that's an American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, I consider it
John
a classic.
Landis, 1981.
Yeah.
Apparently, I've never seen this movie. I just figured I did, but turns out I have not. This is currently available on Amazon Prime. Early on in this movie, a lot of concern on my part because it has David Naughton and Griffin Dunne, and they're kind of doing this like European trek or whatever after college, whatever the hell you want to call it, Vision Quest, whatever the fuck it is. And they're going through England here, and I just had this sneaking suspicion. I'm like, you know what? They're gonna kill Griffin Dunne, and I'm gonna be stuck with this David Naughton fucker because he's incredibly bland. And I had this feeling that it was gonna happen, and I was more concerned about that than like the actual werewolf showing up and murdering people. And the werewolf does show up and murder people, and much to my disappointment, to my dismay, he kills Griffin Dunne and not David Naughton. And then I'm stuck with David Naughton for the rest of the goddamn movie. But in spite of that, it's still pretty damn good. The effects, which I've always seen like in clip shows, like when they're talking about like special effects in movies and shit like that, the transformation sequence, all the effects are great. And I was kind of surprised about how bloody and grisly it is.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know anything about his nightmares where like the demon monster show up in army fatigues and murder his entire family. I didn't know that was a thing. That was I wasn't ready for that. Let's be honest. That kind of caught me by surprise. But everything with Jenny Agutter's nurse character, like that whole thing, I guess, which existed to keep him in London, it was so weird and ridiculous. The fact that the dude wakes up naked in the zoo and he comes home and he's like, I woke up naked at the zoo. And she's just like, oh, glad you're back. And she, at that point in time, she even knew that, like, hey, he might be a werewolf. This might actually be legit. So let me know when you see him. And she's just like, oh, whatever. She just moves on with her life. It's like, I don't know. It's just, there's certain sections of this movie where it seemed like they had no idea what to do. So they're just like, fuck it. We'll just move on. But overall, I recommend it. Pretty damn good for a werewolf movie,
Yeah, I wanna revisit this sometime in the near future. Maybe for Halloween. The only other stuff that I've been watching is the Rambo movies, so I decided that I'm gonna rewatch the Rambo series in preparation for Last Blood coming out. Now, I've always been a fan of the Rambo movies. When I was a kid, I loved Rambo. I was like obsessed with Rambo. And I don't even know that. I mean, I guess maybe I saw some Rambo movies when I was a kid, but I never really remember it. I think that there was a cartoon show, though. And I think maybe that's why I loved
Yeah.
Rambo so much. And there was like action figures and stuff.
It's weird because this is not something that I've known about you. It's
I
kind of
love,
surprising.
yeah, I was like obsessed with Rambo.
I can't imagine little Adam
Oh, yeah.
being into Rambo.
Little Adam was like, I love G.I. Joe and Rambo. I had like a whole Rambo costume. I had like the red bandana and the giant fake knife and stuff like that. And I remember I had like some guns too. Like there was I don't know if it was a whole play set or what, but I remember this was before toy guns looked fake. So I remember the gun that I had looked very real. The Rambo gun. So yeah, the Rambo series is, I mean, honestly, all the movies are not great, but they're still a lot of fun. It's funny because in Rambo 2 or I think it's called Rambo First Blood Part 2, he goes to Vietnam and he's fighting the Viet Cong and Russia in that one. And in Rambo 3, he's fighting the Russians again, this time in Afghanistan. So he's basically teaming up with the Taliban to get to fight. He fights a whole Russian army in one scene. And then in Rambo 4, which was the last one that came out in I think 2008, he went to Myanmar. And in Rambo 1 though, in First Blood, he's just fighting freaking David Caruso and what's his name? He's just fighting like a couple of dudes in this like backwater town. And I just think it's funny how it ramps up so quickly. Like he goes from fighting a bunch of sheriff's deputies in some like podunk town to fighting armies.
Fighting full-on countries.
They're all pretty decent. I mean, I actually liked the new Rambo movie, the 2008 one. I know a lot of people weren't into that one, but I quite enjoyed it. I haven't revisited that one just yet, but I probably will. Certainly before the new one comes out. It's also funny. I posted something on Twitter. If you listen to the end credit theme song for First Blood Part 2, it's sung by Frank Stallone, and it is the most amazing song ever.
Yes.
Also, First Blood Part 2 is co-written by Sylvester Stallone and James Cameron. So Brian Dennehy, that's who he fights in First Blood. For some reason his name was escaping me. So he fights Brian Dennehy and David Caruso.
That's it. Like I think I could win that fight.
And there are a couple other dudes too that he fights. It's like the premise.
It's a long stretch from, armies.
Yeah, it's like you see when you think of Rambo, you think of him going like in the jungle and fighting Russians or Viet Cong or whatever, like fighting these paramilitary groups. But you got to remember, in First Blood, he's in America. Like he's just fighting a bunch of cops, like crooked cops.
Damn.
And he's not even really fighting them. For the most part, they're trying to kill him and he's trying to get away.
Gotcha.
Revisiting them like years later, years after their release, it's always kind of interesting to come back to this series, especially like Rambo 3 when he's essentially teaming up with the Taliban.
Yeah, that's weird too, to go from kind of like an anti-cop origin to like pro-military.
It's not so much anti-cop in the first one. It's more like he comes home from Vietnam and like all of his squad mates are dead. And he doesn't have anywhere to go. And like when he goes into this town, they treat him like shit. because he's a soldier. So
that's right. It's kind of that. That's where that whole BS thing got started. That, Vietnam vets were treated like shit when they came back.
Yeah.
It mostly started with Rambo.
So that plays very heavily into the first one, and the second one too. There's a lot of that going on in First Blood Part 2 as well, even though in that one pretty much entirely takes place in Vietnam or Thailand.
Okay, gotcha.
Either way, it's kind of fun revisiting these. There are new 4K Blu-rays that were released for all of them, so you can check them out.
Okay, so I have one other one I was able to watch. This isn't out yet, and I guess it essentially exists in two different ways. So there is like an exhibition style where it's shown on 3 channels. I guess a screen on the left, screen on the right, screen in front of you. The way that I saw it is a single channel, which is, streaming on the internet. And that's the Giverny Document, directed by Jatovia Gary. And this is like a 40-minute experimental film. It kind of cuts between her doing on-street interviews with Black women in Harlem, just asking them very simple question to everyone she comes across, which is just, do you feel safe in the world? Do you feel safe in your body? Just candid on-street interviews. And then the opposite of that is Monet's Gardens in Giverny, which has like footage of him painting. And then that's also cut with images of her in the actual gardens themselves. It's cut with images of Diamond Reynolds' filming of her boyfriend, Philando Castile's murder. And it's really dynamic cutting and editing, creating very interesting juxtapositions, especially with like the footage of the black and white footage of like Monet just painting in his gardens without a fucking care in the world. He can just stand out there and paint all day and he doesn't have to worry about anything, and the cut between that and with her as an artist where she has to ask a very simple question, which is, do you feel safe? Which I'm sure is something that Monet probably never thought of in his entire life, because he had an entire garden at his disposal. But if you get a chance, whether it's in the 3-channel or the single channel, whatever one it is, I would definitely recommend it. And I'm really interested to actually see the 3-channel presentation of it, because you can kind of get an idea watching the single channel of like what might be on the 3 separate screens at one time. But I'm not, I have no idea. I can only guess.
So with the single channel, it just periodically cuts to the other channels?
It's just cut like a regular film. You know what I mean? But you're thinking of it in a museum setting.
Right.
I can kind of visualize, what the 3 screens are showing by the way that it's cut. But again, that's just speculation on my part. It might be a completely different experience. I don't know.
This sounds very intriguing.
Indeed, it is. It's good. Good stuff.
Okay, and that's the Giverny Document single channel.
Single channel.
Keep an eye out for that. Who knows what that maybe that'll be on Mubi or something.
Yeah, hopefully it'll get picked up somewhere.
All right, let's take a look at what we have in theaters this week. On the 11th, we have Chained for Life.
Oh, yeah.
I know you're pretty excited about this one. It's the one directed by Aaron Schimberg.
Been waiting.
Yeah, this is stars Jess Wexler and Adam Pearson. Beautiful actress struggles to connect with her disfigured co-star. I think you're working on a review for that one, right?
I sure am.
Wow.
Don't remind me.
Whoa. Kevin working on a review.
I'm working on like 7 right now, and it's not going well. I'll just say that.
Been there. Let's see. And then on the 13th, we have The Goldfinch. I don't know. What do you think? Are you interested in this?
Not entirely, no. I know my wife is though, so I might be seeing it. I don't know.
I'm actually not too interested in it either, but we'll see. All right, we also have Brittany Runs a Marathon. This looks pretty funny. Looks like a lighthearted comedy. I like Jillian Bell, so we'll probably give this a look at some point.
All right.
Hustlers is coming out. This is not to be confused with The Hustle that came out earlier this year.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this is the one with Constance Wu and Jennifer Lopez. I don't really have an opinion on this one.
It's got quite the cast.
It does. Freaks is coming out. This is one that I would recommend checking out. I would recommend going into this as cold as possible. Like, not even a synopsis for this one. Just go straight in. It's directed by Adam Stein and Zach Lipovsky. I talked about this. I think it was Fantasia Fest that I covered it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember. This is with the creepy ice cream guy.
Yeah.
Mr. Snowcone, Bruce Dern, Mr. Snowcone.
Yeah, I recommend checking this out. It's pretty interesting. Monos is coming out as well in limited release. This is the one from Alejandro Landes.
Yes, I am. I'm looking forward to this one for good things.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Depraved is coming out. That's the Larry Fessenden one. I would recommend that one as well. The Weekend is coming out, and I believe that is it for theaters. Good number of things. There's
a decent number of solid films there.
Yeah. Lots to check out this week. Let's see what we have on VOD. On the 10th, we have Investigation 13. That's a horror movie. We have Helmington. That's a horror movie. We have Arctic. That's a horror movie. We have Perfect Skin. That's a horror movie. We have Bathroom Stalls and Parking Lots. That is not a horror movie.
Oh, okay.
Now, you got a lot of horror movies and then Bathroom Stalls and Parking Lots. That I think might be a comedy.
Wow.
On the 11th, we have In the Shadow of the Towers, Stuyvesant High. This is a documentary that's on HBO. It's going to be on HBO about a high school that was near the World Trade Centers. And I think it interviews former students of that school, and they talk about their experience during 9/11. And then on the 13th, we have 3 Days with Dad. That's a comedy. Scarborough. That is I'm not sure what that is. I think it's a drama involving teachers. We have Haunt. This is a horror movie that is actually this one's worth keeping an eye on. It's from the guys who wrote A Quiet Place. And I enjoyed this one. This is one to keep an eye out on. Riot Girls. This is another one that I would give probably a light recommend to. It takes place in this sort of post-apocalyptic world where adults have all died, so it's only kids left.
Okay.
And there's like different factions, so you have like the kind of punk rock kids in this one faction, and then you have the jocks, the varsity kids in another faction. It's not necessarily anything we haven't seen before, but it's pretty well executed.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it for VOD. On Blu-ray this week, we have John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. I would highly recommend checking this out if you haven't already. Holy crap. Wick 3, back at it. The Blu-ray is actually pretty decent too. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff and making of featurettes and stuff. No audio commentary though, which is a bit of a bummer.
Really?
Yeah, I would love to hear, Keanu Reeves and the director Chad Stileski. I would love to hear them get more into the nitty gritty about making the movie. Now, fortunately, the behind the scenes stuff does go over a lot of that stuff. Like, there's pretty much a featurette for every big set piece in the movie. And then also there's featurettes on like the new characters and the lore, like the new things that they added to the lore and all that stuff. So it's all pretty much covered in the featurette, in the bonus content, but I'd still like a commentary. Casino is getting a 4K release. Now, speaking of 4K releases, Disney is going wild with 4K releases this week. So just strap in. There's new 4K releases of Ratatouille, Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, Inside Out, Cars, Brave, Aladdin, the animated one, The Good Dinosaur. What else do we have here? A Bug's Life, Monsters University, Monsters Inc., Up, The Incredibles, Wreck-It Ralph, Cars 2, and I think I might have got all of them. A lot of Disney Pixar stuff getting 4K releases this week. I'm not sure why. They might be just like re-releases of stuff. They might be trying to like offload some of their excess inventory while preparing for their Disney Plus thing. One final push of that physical media before they stop.
Make it all scarce.
Yeah. The Dead Don't Die is coming out.
Cool.
Yeah. If you haven't seen that yet, light recommend for me. Paranormal Activity 6 movie collection. They made 6 Paranormal Activity movies. Can you imagine like binge watching those movies? That'd be like, oh, that'd be rough.
I'm sure you'll do it at some point in time.
I don't think so.
I foresee in 16 years' time you revisiting that series.
Maybe. They're just not as fun as some other series, though.
Gotcha.
Looks like the Santa Claus is also getting a new collection with the Santa Claus 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
I know you've been really wishing for that.
You know, you fucking know.
Arctic is also coming out, and June from 2015, The Great Wall from 2016, and Split is getting a new version on Blu-ray for some reason. I don't know what's different about it. And that's pretty much it. What about Criterion's this week?
Oh, we have one Criterion. That's The Cloud-Capped Star from 1960, directed by Ritwik. The Talk. This is a 2K restoration. This is not 4K. It's only a 2K. All right. And the special features are a little slim. I mean, there is a new conversation between two filmmakers. There's a stills gallery, and there's some new subtitle translations. But that's it.
All right. I forgot to mention that Wall-E and Tangled are both coming out as well.
Fuck Christ.
The live action Aladdin is also coming out.
Good Lord.
And there's a 5 movie Jurassic Park collection that's coming out too. That's in 4K.
Good God.
It's interesting. It says Jurassic World 5 movie collection. Now, to me, it seems like, I mean, I guess it makes more sense because you're dealing with more than just Jurassic Park. You're dealing with the other parks as well.
True.
But also, I feel like Jurassic Park is a more recognizable name than Jurassic World.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's cool. It's cool.
I would think that you would go. You got to go to Jurassic Park. That's how everyone knows it.
Exactly. And the cover of the Blu-ray uses the Jurassic World logo, which we all know is not nearly as cool or iconic as the Jurassic Park logo.
Correct.
So, man, I don't know what they were thinking there, but
fucked it up. That's what they did.
I'm not sure that all of them are on. It's a 10 disc set though, so
Jesus.
Yeah, 5 movies, 10 discs. So if you're a Jurassic whatever fan, check that out.
Get over to your Best Buy.
Get over to your local Sam Goody.
It's $375.
Out of curiosity, I'm wondering how much how much this is. It is
Too much.
it's 66 on Amazon. That's not bad.
Okay. No, that's not for 10 discs.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I think that Godzilla box set that's coming out on Criterion is like $250.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bit different.
It is. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot more included in that.
You know, they hired an artist.
Yeah.
For every single, which is incredible.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm gonna get that, by the way. Like that,
you got to. How do you not?
I decided that I will be making that purchase.
You have to.
Even if they send me one for free, that'd be awesome. But I'm gonna buy it regardless. So.
Well, then you gotta get rid of the other one. You gotta do a sweepstakes type deal.
Yeah, if they give me one and I buy one, then I'll certainly give one away.
And then you can give it to me. That'd be cool.
You can enter the contest.
I will win the sweepstakes immediately.
I can't imagine how pissed everybody would be. All right. I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your feedback and questions to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @filmpulsenet and @filmpulsekevin. And then if you have a minute, please consider reviewing us on your podcast platform of choice. That is extremely helpful. For Kevin Rakeshaw, my name is Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.